All right, guys, so we got to talk about GameStop, your favorite gaming store, coming out with GameStop Retro. And this is actually the second time they attempted this. I remember they actually tried this back in, I want to say 2011, 12, and everybody was talking about how GameStop has these warehouses full of retro games. And they didn't. Well, maybe they did. Who knows? I mean, it's conspiracy. I'm not really sure. But they tried it. It didn't do too well. And they took in retro games for maybe about a year and a half before they kind of closed it out. Maybe it was longer than that. I can't remember because I wasn't trying to trade in my retro games or even modern games at the time to GameStop because, man, we know what kind of deals they were giving. Now, there's a couple of reasons why I think this won't work. And one of the main reasons is that GameStop doesn't train their employees properly. You know, I've seen videos where people have traded in like repro games into GameStop and they took them as real. And of course, they were still ripping off like certain games for what the original would go for. And this is, I don't want to say this was back in like 2000, I can't remember. But anyways, it happened. And that was just crazy because you know what's going on when they put those games in the inventory mix. Somebody buys those offline and they get the reproduction games. And then sometimes the worst case is a lot of people don't even know the reproductions and they think they have something like cool and rare. I think a lot of people who buy games off GameStop are taking a gamble anyway, like retro games or even modern games, because you never know what kind of condition they're going to come in. So you have to thoroughly check if you're like an enthusiast. But for retro games, I almost feel like everybody is one. And, you know, like getting like disc only for certain games. I mean, most of us, I feel like we want our games to arrive complete. The format they were in, we don't want disc only. I understand cartridge is fine because that's just like Super Nintendo, everybody accepts cartridge. You know, if you get in box, that's great, but the condition always varies, so you never know what you're going to get. Now, teaching their employees how to spot fake cartridges, they don't pay those guys enough as it is, so I still think the employees aren't going to care, so they can get bootleg games traded in at any moment and it'll get recognized as new. That's another problem that they probably won't rectify. Trade-in values. A lot of people value their retro games, and if they do decide to trade them in, they want a fair price for them. And do you think GameStop is going to give that to them? I mean, I understand their business and all, but think about it. Is it really worth it? I mean, some people get to that point where they say, you know what, I want to trade all my games and I don't care right now. And they take in a bunch of games to GameStop and they offer them a horrible price. We already know what price I'm talking about. And it's like, dude, was this even worth it? So, you know, and then there's the thing that they probably won't even take everything. You know what I mean? I'm not saying everybody's going to bring in like gold or anything like that, but still they should have like everything priced out that's retro, and more so than they have in the past, because a lot of that stuff was kind of like just not there, unfortunately. But they need to have every inventory for every retro game on their list of trade-in value, so people will know before they waste their time by bringing it in. Another thing is, I don't even think their retro section is going to be that big. You know what I mean? Like, they're trying to add a bunch of systems in there, of course, which is good, but you got to think about all the merch they have in their stores now, you know, like with the regular modern games being like phased out in a way. Not saying they're all the way phased out, but it's getting that way, because I walk into my local GameStop, it's like all this merch and clothes and stuff like that. I'm like, what's going on here? Like, I don't get excited about going to GameStop anymore, you know. Usually if I'm looking for a game, they don't have it in stock because they'll say, hey, you should have pre-ordered it, and I'm like, dang, I didn't know it was like available for pre-order, like stuff like that. But I don't want to get all into that. Going back to the retro scene, I just don't think the section is going to be that big for those games. I don't think a lot of people are going to trade that stuff in. And even if they did want to trade that stuff in, I feel like GameStop would have to have a giant retro selection of games. It would have to be on the level that FuncoLand used to be. If you guys remember that. You know, everybody would get excited to go to FuncoLand to see what they had. In order to do that, GameStop would probably have to have their own retro GameStop store, which they're not going to have. These stores are just going to be a part, these sections are just going to be a part of regular stores that are bigger. So you're not going to have that wow factor going to GameStop excited for something. Also, even if they had their own selected, like their own GameStop retro stores, just retro games, I mean, would there be enough of the community to really support it, you know, properly? You know, would those stores be able to keep up? You know, they had a couple of them years ago and they didn't work. So they're definitely not going to go that route this time. But still, even if they did, I don't think it'll work. So I'm having a hard time thinking that a small selection of games in a GameStop store is going to work as well. I mean, the selection is going to be minimal. I mean, their whole goal is to make off our nostalgia, but is our nostalgia really there, especially for GameStop? By now, most people know where to do their retro game shopping at. You know, a lot of stores have taken over. There's gaming conventions. There's actually multiple gaming conventions you could go through throughout the year. And, you know, of course, other game stores that have taken over for the retro community. They've done a really good job. But looking back at GameStop here, how can it possibly work, though? Maybe here's some things, too. Maybe companies like, I don't know, Hyperkin can sell their products there. They've done it before. Maybe Retrobit have pre-orders there for some games, some retro games. That might be cool, but it wouldn't be that many games. You probably get maybe like 4 games a year from at least Retrobit themselves. And if there's anybody else that wants to hop in on that, that's a possibility too. But would it be enough to really like, hey, I got to go to GameStop Retro, get my retro games, get my pre-orders? It just doesn't seem like it's enough. So I don't know how it's going to work, man. I'm not excited for it. You know, I've been collecting games for around, well, it's pretty much ever since I was 15 years old, and I kept most of my stuff. I know the value of it. I enjoy it. I know what it's worth, and I'm not really trying to sell it, or I'm just not trying to buy it from GameStop. Nobody wants to pay like top dollar for retro games, especially for stuff from the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th generation era, at least from GameStop. But here's a list of the stuff they're gonna have. Allegedly, Nintendo, NES, Super Nintendo, Game Boy Advance, which might be pretty cool. Game Boy, N64, Nintendo DS, but we know those are going to be cart only. Wii U, that could be back in their stores. GameCube, oh man, that's going to be really, who knows how that's going to look in their stores. It's going to be barely any of that stuff. Regular Xbox might be nice. 360 is somewhat still there anyways, so yeah, I can imagine that being there. PS1, I don't know about that. PS2, possibility. Dreamcast, that's another one, you know. Genesis, yeah, I don't know. Sega Saturn, you gotta be kidding me. I mean, it'll be a rare occurrence when Sega Saturn stuff is there, but we'll see what happens, especially here in Washington. I doubt that'll happen for me out here. PlayStation Vita, that would be nice, but the PS Vita community is strong, so anything Vita in that store will be gone. And then, of course, PS3, which I always like seeing in their stores. You know, I'm starting to enjoy the PlayStation 3 much more than I did in the past. And yeah, I would like to see more titles for that system in stores. But I think I pretty much got most of the ones I really wanted anyway. But like I said, it would be nice to see like a selection of games, if possible, in their stores. But, you know, in saying all this stuff about GameStop, guys, you know, I would love to see it possibly work that it would benefit us as the consumer, you know what I mean? But I don't think that's going to happen, but hopefully maybe I'll be proven wrong. We'll see what happens. But let me know in the comments what you guys think. You know, are you going to go to GameStop Retro? Or are you going to be searching for your games there? Do you think it's a good idea? You know, yeah, just let me know your thoughts. I love to hear them, you know, because like I said, they tried this before and it didn't work, but maybe they have a plan to make this really work for everybody, and that would be a great deal for all of us if it could work. But anyways, guys, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you for watching. Let me know in the comments what you think. The Radical One, and I will see you all later.